Today we're tackling something genuinely fascinating that's escalating as we speak, pulled straight from your source material.
It really is.
We're heading to the high north. Specifically, we're looking at a strategic flashpoint over the sovereignty of Greenland. And it's all framed by this sudden, very coordinated military boost from Denmark and its key European and Arctic allies.
Right.
So the mission today, really, is to unpack the details behind this buildup. It's happening fast, and to understand the political trigger for it.
The catalyst.
Exactly. And that catalyst, it seems, boils down to a really aggressive, renewed push from the United States for outright control over the island.
The stakes here are just immense. I mean, this goes straight to the heart of global security. Greenland, you have to understand, it sits right at the center of Arctic strategy.
A critical choke point.
A critical choke point, exactly. It's a massive landmass. It controls vital sea lanes, and it has this enormous resource potential that everyone's eyeing.
And the Danes are not being subtle about their view on this.
Not at all. The Danish defense minister, Troels Lund Poulsen, was exceptionally clear. He basically said this buildup is, and I think this is a direct quote, absolutely crucial for strengthening security in the Arctic.
So he's signaling this isn't just a random exercise.
No, he's signaling that this is a deliberate, necessary move to protect what they call the Kingdom of Denmark and, by extension, all their allied interests in the region.
And it's so important for you to understand, we are far beyond just diplomatic murmuring here. This is immediate, tangible military action.
It's a physical reinforcement of a political claim. It's that speed, that instant trigger response that really sets this all apart.
Yeah.
When you see multiple nations coordinating major maneuvers on such a tight timeline, the threat they perceive is, it's imminent.
Okay, let's unpack this. So our sources are detailing that Denmark and its allies, they're not waiting around.
No.
They're immediately increasing their military presence. And they're doing it through expanded exercises. We're seeing more maritime patrol aircraft, naval assets, troops.
All being deployed as part of these expanded training activities. It's not a scheduled drill. This is an operational acceleration.
And the nature of these exercises, they seem designed to send a message.
Oh, absolutely. They're comprehensive, they're high visibility, and they're all about integration. Hosting allied forces, operating fighter jets in some really challenging conditions.
Right. The Arctic is no joke.
No. And conducting maritime security missions across these huge, vast areas, it's a very robust demonstration of not just capability, but of a shared intent to defend the territory.
And crucially, this isn't Denmark going it alone. This is a multinational effort.
That's right. And the list of who's participating really shows the breadth of the collective response.
So who are we talking about?
We're seeing direct involvement from Sweden, the Netherlands, Canada, Germany, and France. These are key partners.
So serious players.
Very serious. And there's simultaneous action. It just speaks volumes. For example, the Swedish Prime Minister, Ulf Kristersson, he confirmed that Swedish officers are already in Greenland.
Already there.
Yeah, already on the ground, preparing the next phase of what Denmark has officially called Operation Arctic Endurance. So this isn't theoretical. It's happening now.
What really stands out to me is the level of specific detail in the commitments, even the small ones.
You mean the German deployment?
Exactly. Germany is sending a reconnaissance team of just 13 soldiers. It's a tiny number.
Right. A tiny number for a very short exercise, just Thursday through Saturday.
But the purpose of those 13 soldiers is what's so significant. They're there to assess Germany's potential future military contributions.
That's it. You can think of them as a geological survey team, but for a future military commitment.
So they're testing the waters.
They're testing the logistics, the harsh environment, and what a larger footprint might look like down the line. It turns a tiny deployment into a major declaration of intent.
What's also fascinating, and this is maybe the most important detail, is the structure of this response.
You mean how it's being organized?
Yeah. Officials are being very clear. These deployments are explicitly intergovernmental.
Which means they have not been formally approved by the NATO Council.
And that is a huge detail.
It's perhaps the most telling detail of the whole operation. When we say intergovernmental, we mean direct agreements worked out quickly between capitals, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Berlin.
They're bypassing the usual NATO framework.
Exactly. They're bypassing the long, centralized committee process you'd normally see at NATO headquarters.
And if you think about the implications of that, bypassing the world's biggest defense treaty, it suggests one of two things. Either they needed a speed that NATO just couldn't deliver,
Mm.
or, and this is more troubling, they are actively coordinating a defense posture against a demand coming from inside the alliance, from the United States.
Precisely. They're using the framework of allied cooperation to send a very clear sovereign message that this security perimeter is being reinforced, regardless of internal alliance politics.
That structural question, why go it alone?
Yeah.
It brings us right to the political flashpoint, the catalyst.
The timing is everything here.
It really is. The announcement for Operation Arctic Endurance happened at the exact moment these high-stakes talks were kicking off in Washington.
You had U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting with both the Danish and the Greenlandic foreign ministers.
And these meetings followed days of, well, escalating tension over President Trump's renewed, very aggressive push for U.S. control of Greenland.
And sending the VP and the Secretary of State, that shows this wasn't some low-level inquiry. This was top-tier pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Direct pressure on the Danish government over the sale or transfer of its territory.
And the core of that tension is rooted entirely in this U.S. national security justification, which directly challenges Danish sovereignty. We saw Trump's Truth Social post from earlier that day.
The one where he just came right out and said it.
He said, and this is a quote, "The United States needs Greenland for the purpose of national security." No ambiguity.
And he didn't just leave it as some vague security claim, did he? He tied it to a very specific, and I should say very controversial, defense project.
He did. He called Greenland vital to his proposed Golden Dome missile defense system.
So for you listening, the context here is crucial. The Golden Dome, as a concept, is this highly advanced, multi-layered system designed to intercept ballistic missiles.
And it relies heavily on early detection and high-latitude interceptors.
So why Greenland? I mean, what does its geography offer?
Well, Greenland's huge northern expanse is just critical because of its proximity to the theoretical flight paths of missiles that might be launched at North America.
So it's a geographical advantage.
A massive one. Its position allows for radar coverage and interception points far, far north of the continent. Trump's argument is basically, to complete the Golden Dome, Greenland is non-negotiable real estate.
Which perfectly frames the strategic contradiction we're seeing. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because Trump asserted that U.S. control would actually strengthen NATO.
Right, by making the U.S. safer.
But that claim was met with an immediate and very direct contradiction from inside the alliance.
From the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen. She warned that this kind of unilateral move, demanding the territory of an ally based on your own internal security needs, would actually fracture NATO.
This isn't just a disagreement over real estate, then. This is a deep philosophical clash.
It's about the core principles of the alliance. If one partner can demand territory from another because of a defense priority, does that not undermine the entire concept of mutual defense and sovereignty that NATO is built on?
It absolutely does. It suggests a hierarchy where one member's self-defined national security justice supersedes the sovereign integrity of another.
The fracture isn't about military capability. It's about trust. It's about political cohesion. If Denmark gave in, it would set a precedent.
So we have the military action, Operation Arctic Endurance, happening at the same time as this political meeting in Washington, all fueled by these Golden Dome demands.
The military maneuver is essentially the physical form of Denmark's political and legal rebuttal.
And their rebuttal has been consistent across all the sources.
Incredibly consistent. Denmark and Greenland have repeatedly rejected any transfer of sovereignty. Full stop.
They keep emphasizing the legal reality, don't they?
They do. Greenland is a self-governing territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. And that means any decision about its future has to be made by its own people.
That principle of self-determination is really the central pillar of their whole argument.
It is.
And we have a perfect quote from Greenland's own prime minister that just shows how committed they are to this, even when facing this immense pressure.
Jens Frederik Nielsen. Yes, he delivered what was basically a political declaration of loyalty.
What did he say?
He said, if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark here and now, we choose Denmark.
Wow. That is a remarkably direct statement of allegiance.
Delivered while their foreign ministers were literally in a room with the U.S. Vice President and Secretary of State. The finality of it shows just how serious this is.
It does. And this is where the diplomatic side gets genuinely messy. The U.S. response to that rejection is, well, it's fascinating.
The response from Trump himself, instead of acknowledging Nielsen's right to speak for his people,
He just dismissed it, publicly, outright.
Exactly. He dismissed the sovereignty claim by saying, that's their problem. I disagree with him.
And that goes so far beyond a simple disagreement.
It's a public dismissal of the political legitimacy of a self-governing leader, and it just ratchets up the tension even more.
It certainly explains why Denmark felt the need to immediately activate Operation Arctic Endurance with partners outside of NATO.
It does. They are physically reinforcing their claim against what they see as an aggressive internal threat, one that's completely dismissive of their sovereignty. They're using these coordinated defense activities to bolster Nielsen's political stance.
Sending a signal that Denmark is not alone in this.
Exactly. They have strong operational allies willing to deploy to protect the kingdom's interests and the principle of self-determination. The military action is like a loud physical punctuation mark at the end of the diplomatic no.
It really shows how fast political demands can turn into boots on the ground.
Or ships in the water.
So, what does this all mean for you? The key takeaway from this deep dive is this really unusual alignment of allies.
Sweden, Canada, Germany, France, the Netherlands.
All executing a military exercise, Operation Arctic Endurance, that is explicitly designed to reinforce control in a strategic zone. And this is the key part. They are doing it outside of formal NATO mechanisms.
Specifically to counter the geopolitical demands being made by a core member of that very same alliance, the United States.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what do we see?
Well, the sources are highlighting a profound structural tension that's emerging in Western defense. You have U.S. national security priorities, like the Golden Dome system, clashing head-on with these fundamental principles of self-determination and sovereignty.
It's a battle over whether strategic necessity can just override established international norms.
It really is.
Thank you so much for providing the source material that made this deep dive possible. This is a perfect example of a situation where the political rhetoric and the military reality are moving in lockstep.
Creating a security dynamic we just haven't seen in the high Arctic for decades.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to consider.
Given that the U.S. justifies its need for control based on the absolute necessity of the Golden Dome missile defense system, what does this coordinated rejection by allies, manifested through Operation Arctic Endurance, what does that suggest about future cooperation on shared defense infrastructure in the Arctic?
And a follow-up to that, should immediate national security needs, or should sovereignty claims, take precedence when you're defining control in these globally critical strategic zones?